Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode. My name is Alicia Gogan, the host of the Globe Secrets podcast, where I help you expand your mind and become more self-aware so you can glow up into the best version of yourself. Hello, how are we doing? I hope everyone is doing good. I feel so cozy and just kind of snuggled up right now because it's raining outside. It's gloomy. It is a holiday Monday here in Canada, and I'm just really excited to be recording. So listen, this topic has been so requested. Truthfully, I always get this question about how to become your own safe space. How do you feel safe within your own life, and how to really build a relationship with yourself. So we're going to dive into it today. And I want to read a comment that was left on one of my podcast episodes that really made me think about this. Needs to be a whole entire episode because I was going to respond to her and I'm like, girl, I have way too many points. Now, I think this is a girl, regardless of whoever it is and whatever type of relationship that they're in a relationship. So they said, I'm lost on how to build a relationship with myself and how to choose myself. Even when I realize I'm putting the spotlight on my relationship and not myself, I don't know how to turn it back to myself and not obsess and be anxious over the relationship. So when we're talking about not having a relationship towards self, usually it is in the context of relationships. Like, you realize you don't have a relationship towards yourself when you're in a romantic relationship and you realize you're losing yourself, or you haven't been prioritizing yourself, or you have tendencies to be anxiously attached or even maybe avoidant, because sometimes avoidant people don't have the best relationship with themselves. Regardless, usually that comes up a lot. Or it could even just be in a work environment or your goals. Like, you just find that you're exerting yourself and you don't know how to have a relationship with yourself. You don't know how to spend time with yourself. It feels weird, etc. So in this episode, I want to talk about why we tend to not have relationships with ourselves. I also want to talk about my non-negotiables when it comes to building a relationship towards myself. And this is what I do to keep myself on track. I want to talk about mastering the art of your own life. And of course, I want to talk about how to be your own safe space. And this is very, very tied to when you usually are triggered. And I think this episode will really resonate with people who struggle with anxious attachment styles, because usually when you feel triggered emotionally, whatever, it's a lot of anxiety. It's a lot of just not feeling safe. It's a lot of you trying to get people to make you feel better, or you just don't know where to even feel safe. So I want to talk about that as well, because at the end of the day, we need to know and be with ourselves continuously until the day we die, okay? So as much as sometimes it feels like work to do this, this is imperative for a beautiful life. I promise you, it might feel hard sometimes. I have friends actively in my life who ask me about these things and who struggle with these things. And I'm not even just going to put my friends on this oh my God, they don't know how to have relationships with themselves, and I do. But I will definitely say I have put in years of work to be able to say that I'm somebody who has that deep connection towards self. And so I really do get a lot of friends, close people in my life, are always coming to me for advice, which is amazing. And I love that, because I love to be able to be that person for them. But the main piece of wisdom that I'm always thinking about every time I am showing up for my friends in this way when they need to hear this, which again is totally fine, is there's no other way around this. You have to do it. You have to commit. You have to go on this journey. And it's not going to feel easy all the time, but there's no easier way out of it, really. I'm not trying to set this up to be the hardest thing in the world, because it doesn't need to be. It can be a beautiful journey, and it's still a journey for me. I am still connecting towards myself. I'm going to talk about that. I am a recovering, I guess, quote unquote, recovering anxious attached girl. I still have anxious attached tendencies in my relationships, absolutely. So I'm always learning. But what I have learned is you got to do it. And you might as well do it now than to continue to drag it along and to play out these cycles that no longer serve you. And regardless if you are anxiously attached or you're not, whatever, if you just know that you don't have a relationship with yourself, or you don't feel like you ever can spend time alone with yourself, or you don't know what to do with yourself when you're feeling really triggered or emotional, the time really is now for you to work on these things. No one is really going to save you. Unfortunately, no one is really going to save you, but that's fine, because you can save yourself, and I'm going to help you. Okay, so let's talk about why you don't have a relationship with yourself. And Obviously, disclaimer, there's many reasons. I'm not going to list them all, and to each their own. I don't know you personally. So if you resonate with anything I'm saying, then that's probably your story. And if you don't, totally fine. Now, on the surface level, some of the reasons why maybe you don't know how to be your own safe space and have a relationship with yourself is mainly because you just don't have the resources, and maybe you don't even really know the benefits enough as to why having certain practices in place, which we will talk about, is helpful for you even as you become in relation to other people, which is life. Like, life is relational. So sometimes I feel like we just don't have the tools. We didn't grow up with really knowing how to be with ourselves and enjoying that process and things like that, and what is really important and what is really not. So we will talk about that in my non-negotiables. And the deep-rooted one, which is definitely tied to people who are anxiously attached. And when you're anxiously attached, you're usually people pleasing. You're a really good person. You're just trying to make everyone else like you or love you, or you always think that you're the issue or you're not good enough. This is a deep-rooted worthiness issue. This is a attachment style issue from childhood. I grew up for sure, trying to please a parent that I was afraid of. So I did everything that I possibly could to be the best kid ever. And that relayed out into my romantic relationships with men. It didn't necessarily do that with friendships. I've talked about many times I have an avoidant attachment sometimes, and also anxious. It definitely shows up in my romantic relationships. And that is usually when we realize we have lost ourselves. That is usually when we realize we don't have that solid relationship with ourselves, because a lot of the times when you don't really commit to yourself and you are with yourself all the time, you find yourself doing those behaviors, which we're going to talk about. And something to see here is when you have low self-worth, when you don't really feel worthy, when you feel like you have to be that person that is over explaining and trying to show people why they should choose you, you really do take your energy and your power away from yourself. You're no longer with yourself. And the reason why you do some of these behaviors is actually because you're trying to feel safe, but you're trying to feel safe in the wrong ways. Meaning, I'll bring it to my childhood. The way that I learned how to be actually safe and not die was to have my parent like me and love me and be happy with me. But my parent was emotionally he wasn't that mature. He was avoidant. He was strict. He was whatever. And so I had to be a certain way in order to get his approval and love and validation. I did that to feel safe, because that's what you do as a child. You don't know how to be safe within your own self. You need your parents to teach you how to do that. You need people to be there and make you feel safe. And it's also not to mean that you don't need that when you're an adult. Obviously, connection is great, but it's a different type of relationship that you have to have with yourself as an adult. But what you tend to do as you're an adult is you're still doing those behaviors that you did in childhood of the, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to people please, or I'm going to get anxious if you don't text me back because, oh my gosh, that means I'm not loved. I'm not liked the same way that my dad was acting or my mom was acting or whatever, whoever it was acting. And then that leads you into a deeper issue, which is you end up getting the bare minimum from people because you have no standard, you have no boundaries, you become uneasy all of the time, you're obsessive, you are away from yourself, which can lead us into some of the ways it looks like to not have a relationship with yourself. And I just came up with a few things just to list to give you guys examples, but there could be a million of them. One could be analyzing others' behaviors and assuming things without clear communication with that person or with whatever it is that you are thinking about. And also talking to your friends over and over again about the assumptions that you have that are negative, that are based out of insecurity. When you are somebody who is doing that, you're not with yourself. Okay. So this is just, I really want you to see some of these examples, how it's either them or you. It's either that thing that's distressing you or you. When you are over analyzing somebody, when you're watching them, when you're checking up on them, when you are talking about them, when you are perpetuating the story, you're not with yourself. Another example could just be arguing consistently with someone on the same type of thing. When you are arguing a lot, this is not to say that arguments are not allowed to be had, but when you're constantly always arguing on the same thing and again, always ruminating on the same thing, it shows to me, for one, and this is for me, like myself too, it shows for me that like I'm clearly not able to communicate my needs and I don't even know what I want. So I need to like bring my attention back to myself and figure out what I need and how to communicate with that person. Because all I'm doing is arguing and I'm away from myself again. I don't have a relationship with myself, because if I did have a relationship with myself, I would know my needs in this relationship or in this situation, and I would be able to express my needs and hold those boundaries or whatever. Now, last week's episode, How to Be More Emotionally Mature, completely talks about that. So please go listen to that. I'll have it linked in the description. Another example, and this is for people who maybe don't feel like they're losing themselves necessarily in a relationship because maybe you're not in one, or maybe you just don't really see that too much because you're in like maybe a long-term relationship and maybe relationships are not your thing right now. That could just be choosing consumption and play over your self-care routines. So maybe you're like getting lost a lot in your social networks, or, you know, maybe it's drinking, it's partying, it's smoking, it's overindulging in food that doesn't serve you. It's like those type of things versus your self-care routines. When you're doing so much of that, you don't have a relationship towards yourself. Because if you did, you would know there's a set level of things that you need to kind of have in your life to make sure that you are healthy, that you are whole, that you are thriving the best that you can. Another one could be watching people's lives on social media and consuming people's content and what they are doing over your own. This could look like every morning you're doing this type of thing, or you could just see your year or your month and you can see how much time are you actually focusing on you and your life and your goals and your relationships, and how much are you focusing on other people's. And this kind of leads into comparing yourself or even gossiping about other people's lives. Now, everyone gossips, okay? Like, let's just be for real. But again, it's like, how much energy are you expanding on other people or watching other people and not giving yourself that energy, not giving yourself that attention? Another thing could just be you're stretching yourself too thin, whether that is because you're trying to hit goals or you're trying to have accomplishments in your life, or maybe you just have so much FOMO that you're constantly going out and you're constantly just like leaving yourself. Obviously, that is going to really impact the relationship that you have towards yourself. And that shows to me that you don't really have that solid relationship with yourself. And I think the biggest indicator of you not having a relationship with yourself is when you are triggered in the moments of, you know, relationship anxiety, you know, your attachment style is flaring up right now, or you're comparing yourself, or you just have a low week or a low day, or something's not really working out. You leave yourself versus be with yourself. So you go party and drink and smoke and do extracurricular activities that are not healthy for you, or you binge, or you become very avoidant. You don't deal with your issues. You don't deal with your problems. That is all you leaving yourself and your energy and honestly, your inner child, which just perpetuates the issue, because what you actually need in those moments is to feel the most safe you've ever felt. And that's why you're going to these things, to make yourself feel better. But none of these things actually really do it for you, because obviously it just goes in a little bit of a cycle. And then you realize, okay, none of that was helpful at all. And you kind of are led back to the same conclusion. But maybe you just don't have the tools to get yourself back there, or again, maybe you don't really know the benefits of doing that or see how they correlate, or you just don't have these non-negotiables put in place to combat how much you are leaving yourself. And this is what I want to talk about next, is like non-negotiables, because in my early 20s, for sure, I left myself all the time. I always left myself. The moment that I was in a relationship, whether it was a text, whether it was a call, whether it was they want to do something, or they want it this way, or their timeline, or whatever it was, I just always left myself, especially when I wasn't feeling good. I would just then try to ease my emotions and my triggers with leaving myself and trying to get other people to make me feel good. Just never worked, until I realized that there are going to be things that need to be put in place in my life in order to keep me stable and to keep me strong and to keep me with myself. And the more times I did this, I started to feel so at peace with my life, so calm, so not needing that person that was giving me the bare minimum, so not needing to go out all the time, so not needing the alcohol, the food, the whatever to make me feel something because I felt okay with myself. Okay, quickly, I just needed to take a quick break. So if you're watching on YouTube, I have my sweater on now. Okay, so let's talk about my non-negotiables when it comes to building a relationship towards myself. And I kind of want to talk about why these things are important. So I'm going to try not to go on rants, but I mean, this is a long form podcast and you're going to get it. So the first thing is daily mindset work. And the way I need to stress this to you, whoever it is listening to this podcast right now and you feel like you don't have a relationship with yourself, this needs to be the top of your priority list. Honestly, always, with most things. Mainly everything in your life, okay? Why I am so good at what I do when it comes to my podcast and how I have so much advice and knowledge and how I'm getting through things and I'm learning and I'm up-leveling and I'm growing and I'm healing is because I have a commitment to working on my mindset and working on the beliefs that I hold and working on how I view myself in the world. And I'm always committed to that. I'm always learning. I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always investing in myself. I am a seeker. I am just that person. Now, you don't have to be exactly like me. You don't have to always be into self-development. I think that there are balances in which, sometimes you get a little bit too much into it and too much into mindset work. But I find a big theme with the people who tend to always ask me the questions of how do I have a relationship with myself? Their main thing is they don't have a daily practice of working on their beliefs that they hold about themselves and their lives and the people around them and men and women and what they get to have in their lives or whatever. Now, what do I mean by daily mindset work? This could be having a journal practice every single morning. This could be listening to podcasts that get your mind right. That could be you learning on a new topic to learn more about yourself. And why I'm saying every day is because you think every day. You think thoughts that create your belief system every day. Okay. So if you have really shitty thoughts and really shitty belief systems, which a lot of us do from childhood, your anxious attachment style, the way you look at yourself, the way you've been taught to be raised and look at the world and this, that, a lot of that stuff is not favorable. But the problem is you're running on that. You're running on a system every single day that tells you you're good enough or you're not good enough. And a lot of people who don't have a relationship with themselves, they're going to default back to the I'm not good enough because you don't spend time every single day reminding yourself I'm good enough. You don't have that practice of redirecting your mind. And it's challenging. It's not necessarily the easiest thing, but this is what I mean when I say that I find people like to try and dance around actually doing the work. We do this a lot because it's really hard. It's constantly every day you have to combat your thoughts when you're feeling really anxious or triggered, but that is really the work. And now you don't always have to always think good thoughts. I'm going to talk about that when it comes to being your own safe space. But yeah, the work does start daily on your mindset. And why is that important? It's important because when you're acting out of an anxious attachment style, let's say you have not the best beliefs about yourself. You don't feel like you're worthy deep down. You really don't, or you wouldn't be second guessing yourself. You need to be telling yourself a new story about what gets to happen in your life or relationships, but also you having a daily practice of working on your mindset and knowing yourself is going to allow you to be able to communicate better in relationships and in this world, and for you to get the things that you want in your life, for you to meet your needs in healthier ways in your life. But what you do is you get into a relationship or you get into some sort of dynamic with people, places, or things, and then you're crying about the fact that it's not the way that you want, but you didn't show up the way that you actually wanted it to go. You showed up in a way that was people-pleasing. You showed up in a way that it was insecure. You showed up in a way of not being able to communicate your needs, and you're wondering why this shit's not working out. You're wondering why you're not feeling safe. Well, you didn't create safety within yourself, but also you don't really have the best beliefs about yourself. And that plays out. When you don't have good beliefs about yourself, you do behaviors that are not the best, okay? When you don't have a belief of I'm good enough, I am one of one, I'm chosen, I can't be replaced, I X, Y, and Z, all of these things. You could talk about a million beliefs all day long that you can have about yourself. Everyone has different ones. When you don't have those beliefs about yourself, that's when your attention goes on them all the time, all day. That's when you start checking who they're liking, who they're following, what they're getting up to, why they responded to you in that way. You are assuming that they don't like you. You're assuming things based off of a tiny piece of evidence, and you're coming to conclusions, and then you're acting on those conclusions. And then you're ruining your entire day because you're not happy. You are triggered all the time. You don't even know how to communicate with yourself. Like, all of that is stemming from all of these things and all of these stories and all of these beliefs that are happening within your head. How is that going to change? You're going to need to have a practice every single day, and it gets easier. I don't have to think about the fact that I have to do this daily practice the same way I don't have to think about the fact that, oh my God, every single day I have to brush my teeth. I just do it. It's just something that I do. And you want to find your flavor, which I'm going to talk about, the art of mastering your own life. But at the end of the day, you need to always be connected to yourself and your beliefs and your thoughts. And if they're not good and they're not favorable, you need to be the one to change them. And you can go and seek help. Obviously, you're listening to this podcast. You can go to therapy, you can go to your friends, that, but you really need to commit to doing that, because that dictates everything. I think I saw a quote the other day on Pinterest where it said, master your mind because one bad thought can ruin your entire day. And it's so true. The next thing that's a non-negotiable is daily movement. And you might be thinking it's surface level advice when it comes to having a relationship with yourself, that, but no. Especially when you have an anxious attachment style, but in general, you just, I don't know. If you don't have a relationship with yourself, then you don't back yourself in some way. You don't stand in your worth. You don't have that power. You're not holding your power. Okay. So what can help you feel like you have more power and feel really good about yourself is moving your body. Why? There's many reasons. One, moving your body in general needs to be done because you need to move stagnant energy within your body system. Even if you don't see it, or you don't necessarily connect to it, or you don't necessarily feel it, or whatever, you need to move your body, and you need to move that energy that is stuck within your body. You could be walking every day. You could be having a set routine in the mornings. You can be going at night. You can be tapping into when you need to actually move your body and you go in that direction. That's something that I have learned, the art of my body and my rhythm. But every single day I'm moving, okay? Every single day I'm honoring myself. So obviously doing that helps with your mental clarity. You always feel better when you're moving your body. It lowers stress, anxiety, things like that. But it also makes you feel good about yourself, okay? If you're on your shit every single day, you're going to be less likely to have these insecure thoughts about yourself when real life things happen, okay? Because they will happen. You're going to get triggered in your life. You're going to get triggered in relationships. But the way you stop spiraling into those things is you fall back on what you know to be true about yourself. But the reason why you have nothing to fall back on is because you don't have that daily mindset practice and committing to the thoughts that you want to think that are actually good. Also, moving your body and taking care of yourself. And now, yes, we want to look at moving your body, daily movement, things like that as a way that's reducing stress, mental health, that. But, we all have that side of us that we want to physically look better, and we kind of want to be our best selves on the outside. So yeah, you can use that as a way to kind of boost up your ego a little bit. Go ahead. If you want to say that you go to the gym all the time and you look fit and you look hot and you look sexy, do it. Obviously that makes you feel good. It makes me feel good knowing that. I don't lead with that. That is not where I get my confidence from fully, but I would be lying to say that, obviously I feel good about myself because I move my body, and I have a great body because I'm taking care of myself. And that obviously plays some sort of role in my relationship, especially romantic, obviously, especially if you're in a relation to, well, I guess it depends on who you're dating. It doesn't really matter, but it's okay to care about looks. It's not everything. That actually should be the least important thing about yourself, in my personal opinion. But to say that it doesn't exist is, I don't know, I think it's a lie, and it doesn't need to be a thing where we erase. Now that leads into the next thing, which is basically daily wellness, daily meals, and self-care. Okay. Why is this important? It kind of leads back to what I was saying about working out. You feel better about yourself when you're taking care of your body. and you're sleeping and you're eating the right foods for yourself. And that even goes beyond anything you can even change with your mindset. And I mean, your mindset, in my personal opinion, dictates a lot of things, but there's some days where your mindset, like you can't get yourself to think good thoughts, or you just can't get there, and that's fine. And that's when you need to learn and master the art of your life and know that, you know what, maybe that workout or maybe that good meal is going to be the thing that makes me feel good today. And that's that. And that's going to boost your self-esteem, or that's going to make you feel like the shit. And I think we would be really surprised to see how much we don't really realize how that actually impacts us. And I know that we know that it's important to eat well, move your body, and wellness and this, that, but I always see, and I say this with myself, yes, but I always see patterns in other people. Like obviously I observed people all the time. I observe myself, yes, but I do observe other people, and I'm going to use other people as an example, but you could put me in that category, okay? When I see friends, I'm saying friends because that's literally the only people that would really be talking to me, or really you guys, but I don't really know you guys too much, except for whatever you kind of tell me in the DMs or comments. But I can see a very big correlation from their self-care or lack of self-care with the anxiety-ridden thoughts. And that's no shade. And it's always apparent in my life too. I'm not taking care of my body. I'm not being consistent with myself. I'm not committing to myself. I'm not really having a journal practice. I haven't really been eating well. I drank, X, Y, and Z things. And I'm crying about the fact that I'm feeling anxiously attached right now, or I'm doing behaviors that I don't want to be doing, or, oh my God, why I don't have a relationship with myself, or, oh my God, I don't feel safe within myself. Sometimes it's actually as simple as that, okay? And on top of that, you feel elite. In my personal opinion, you feel elite when you know you're on your shit, okay? Ain't nobody tell me nothing when I am on my shit, okay? You can't tell me a single thing. No avoidant man on planet Earth can make me feel any sort of way when I have my 9:30 hot yoga class booked on a Saturday morning and I didn't drink last night, and I'm waking up and I'm doing my journal routine and I'm taking my supplements and I'm feeling good AF. Ain't nobody can tell me not a thing, okay? So that is daily. And it is a struggle. Trust me, I have been there, okay? It's taken me years to be able to even consistently focus on these things daily, okay? So I'm not saying like all of a sudden you're gonna have to change your life in one day and everything needs to be daily. Read my book, please, The Ultimate Glow Up Guide. It'll be linked down below if you really struggle with taking care of yourself and showing up and getting out of self-sabotaging behaviors and cycles, because that will absolutely dive deeper into it for you, because I totally get that. But I'm telling you right now, these are my non-negotiables. I'm 28 years old. I'm moving into being 29 in November. Every year that I get older, I realize there's no way you can slice the goddamn pie, okay? You got to get these things done. You need to focus on these things the same way you need to brush your teeth every single day. And the last thing that I think actually is sometimes even bigger than the wellness and the mindset, but not really, because I always put mindset like on the top. And this is another thing that I see a direct correlation between, and this is me too, especially when I was earlier in my 20s, is when people don't have goals or they don't have something that they're working towards bigger than themselves, and their anxious attachment behaviors, or they're not feeling good within themselves, low self-esteem, whatever. You need to have something that you're working towards. Now, this could literally be you just having a job, okay? Some people literally don't have jobs. Like, let me just tell you guys that. Some people don't have jobs, and I'm not throwing any shade for you if you listen to this and you don't have a job. Maybe you're too young to have a job. Maybe you're in school right now. Like maybe you are a mom and you're not working right now. Maybe you mental health issue, chronic health issue, and you can't work right now. Whatever the reason is, there's absolutely no shade. But when you do not have something that you're working towards in any sort of capacity, it is no wonder sometimes where you don't feel good within yourself. And I know the times when I had chronic illness and I could not work. I had to take a leave of absence and I was struggling. And you know what I did in those times? Again, I talked about this in my book. I got so clear with being positive about my future and thinking about the goals that I wanted to accomplish, even as I was healing, even though I couldn't do everything I wanted to do. I had like all of like dream boards and mood boards of all these things that I wanted to do. I always had something that I was anchored in, that I was hopeful for. You need to have something like that. And this honestly, like adjacent, if we want to think about it, is more like being spiritually connected or even having some sort of like religion or like some sort of faith or whatever. I think that you need to be rooted in something. And I find that the times where I am losing myself, I don't have a connection towards myself. I don't have those things in place. I'm not excited about something. I don't have a passion. I don't have a goal. I don't have something I'm working towards. I am not like, maybe I just didn't have a job at that point, or I wasn't making money or whatever. It's no wonder you feel bad about yourself, you know? It's no wonder you have these behaviors that you know are not contributing to your well-being. I think also having goals, a job, a vision for yourself in your life is going to help you in times where you feel low self-esteem and you're comparing yourself, which is also helpful for those who might be anxiously attached, because usually you don't have a lot of self-worth. So especially in relationships, if for some reason that person is like doing a behavior you don't want them to be doing, or it makes you feel like crap, you have nothing to really fall back on, because you look in your life and you're like, well, I don't have goals. I haven't accomplished anything. I'm not moving my body. I'm not taking care of myself, and have shitty beliefs. Like, it's actually no wonder that you feel like shit. Like, honestly, it makes sense to even be feeling like that. So I think that making sure you have some sort of goals within your life is important. And if you don't know what that is right now, Go seek, please. Stop spending time around people who don't have any goals. Stop wasting your life away thinking that one day it's just going to be sat on your lap. Go out in the world. Go learn something about yourself. Go listen. Stop caring about the shit that does not matter. Stop caring about how you look on Instagram, or how to edit your photo, or if this guy likes me, when he literally is out here doing his own thing. Stop doing that, please, please, please. And I'm saying that with like as much love as I can. Obviously, like, I have been through it, and I really don't do this with like goals and work stuff, but in my early 20s, I can say I definitely was kind of more like that. I think that I learned this lesson very, very early on. I say this all the time because I had to grow up very, very quickly, and quite frankly, nobody was holding my hand. Nobody was paying my bills. No one was doing anything. I was very, very unsafe in my life. So I really had to find something, and I had to find it quick, and I had to work my ass off, and I had to do these things even if I didn't want to. So I feel like I just learned this lesson very early in my life, but there's definitely lessons outside of that I didn't learn, like self-care and really taking care of myself. Those were things that kind of pulled me back when it came to self-esteem and confidence within myself and in relationships. Now, there's many more things that you could do daily, and you're going to figure that out for yourself. But those 4 things, I genuinely believe, are the groundwork you need to lay for yourself if you don't have a relationship with yourself and you find that you're feeling very like unstable. Please do not come to me, and I'm saying this like literally as a joke, come to me whenever you want with all your problems, even if you listen to this episode and you're still triggered, because I totally get it, because that's not how humans work. But I'm just saying that like in passing right now. Don't come to me crying about the fact that your life is a mess or you don't feel good about yourself if those things are not in place, okay? And one last thing I want to say about this is those 4 things that I just listed, those things heal your nervous system. The more you're consistent with thinking good thoughts, you're going to be at rest. The more you move your body, you're going to be at rest. The more you honor your body, the more you eat well and prioritize your self-care routines, you're going to be at rest. The more you have a goal and a passion and something that you're working towards and you're excited about, doesn't mean you're going to be excited about it every single day, but you have something you can ground yourself in, you're going to be at rest. When you're at rest, you stop running away from yourself and your life. You realize, I can be with myself today. Even if I have the worst day, it's not feeling the best, you know what? I can think about all the things that I've been working towards and all the things that I can ground myself in and all the tools that I can grab and use when I need to ground myself versus trying to get somebody to make me feel good or trying to run away from myself with using things that I know don't serve me. Now let's quickly talk about mastering the art of your own life. And this could honestly be a separate podcast, so I don't want to go too deep into it. But those things that are non-negotiable, like those are just things that like basically everyone should be doing, right? The same way you should just be like brushing your teeth every day. But there's just going to be things that are so your flavor and so unique to you that you need to start now understanding about yourself and what you need, okay? So when it comes to like social life and things that you're going to consume and places you're going to move in the world and environments you want to be around and your routines and your everything, they're going to be so unique to you. And this is where the real work is, okay? And this is something that I am still going through. And guess what? I'm going to be going through it until the day I die, because I'm a human being and I go through seasons of life. I go through different chapters. I go through different experiences. Maybe this time I've healed something over here and now there's something new that comes up here. I have anxious attachment. Maybe somebody else has avoidant. I have this entire story of my life. Maybe you have a different thing. Okay. So everyone is different. So you're going to need to know yourself. And I think this is where sometimes we either throw out the information that you might hear about those 4 non-negotiables that I just listed, because maybe it just seems like very vague and like, oh, it doesn't work for you because you've tried it before. You've tried mindset work, or you've tried workouts every day, or you've tried like wellness. But did you try it your way though? And this is what I mean. There's certain ways that you can journal. There's self-concept, there's affirmations, there's just talking to yourself through your higher self. Or maybe connecting to yourself doesn't mean journaling, and it means going out into nature and thinking in a meditative state. And you're not having any sort of thing in your ear or anyone telling you anything, and you're actually connecting to yourself that way. Or maybe it's going to therapy and it's this type of therapy versus that type of therapy. Maybe it's this style of content or podcaster versus the other. There's going to be people who resonate with you and people who don't. You need to find what works for you. Don't just sit here and be like, oh, journaling doesn't work, or listening to podcasts don't work, or that doesn't work. Keep seeking out what works for you. You will find something. But I feel like what we do in our lives is we just give up. Oh, like working out doesn't work for me. Okay, well, maybe like weightlifting didn't work for you. But what about trying at-home workouts that are free? Does that work for you? What times of the day work for you when it comes to working out? What type of field do you want to be working in? And don't give me the excuse of being like, oh, well, there's no jobs out there, or I can't figure it out, or it's too hard, or I don't have schooling for that. Okay, so then what is your plan of action to be able to get yourself from A, B to C? You can do it. You have time. You're alive. You might as well do it. Even when it comes to socializing, what places do you like to move around? What places don't feel good for you? Does clubbing work for you or does it not? Maybe you like concerts more. Maybe you like festivals. Maybe you want to do day things and you no longer want to do night things. And if you know, then you know what I'm talking about, it, because that's literally me. I am like super into day things and I am not drinking anymore because that just doesn't work for my lifestyle. Well, the drinking thing. The day things definitely do. So there's just a flavor of life in which I like to move and be. But in order for me to even know all those things, I need to have those things in place, those daily mindset, wellness, working out, moving my body, having a goal in mind, and being consistent with that. And that opens up space for curiosity. That opens up space for knowing, when I put myself in a position over here socially with people at 2 a.m. at a club, I don't feel good doing this. But sometimes we put ourselves in these places over here where we don't feel good doing this, but we don't know how to even get ourselves out because we don't spend time during the day or every single day connecting to what about this thing doesn't make me feel good. Is it the people? Is it just the fact that it's 2 a.m.? Is it the fact that it's the alcohol? Like, what is it specifically within that thing? Is it the entirety of the whole thing? Then great. I'm going to start to remove myself. But you don't give yourself the chance to do that because you don't commit to yourself. But you're crying about everyone else not committing to you. You're wondering why you don't get consistent results in your life. Now, I think there's 2 main reasons why we don't have our non-negotiables and just like a relationship towards ourselves put in place. One of them being we can't differentiate between having our non-negotiables and learning like what the flavor of our lives are and being able to balance the two, which again, this is why I say it's like mastering the art of your own life. You need to take a lot of time and a lot of reflection to see when you lose yourself, right? Because like we could lose our daily negotiables simply by falling too much in the category of having like not even too much fun in our lives, but just, you know, going out and socializing a lot and not having certain things in place, obviously, to make it so that we're always like disconnected from ourselves. So it's no wonder you don't feel like you have a relationship with yourself or you don't feel safe within yourself. It's because you really don't know how to balance the two. And so getting good with being committed to those non-negotiables, but also just being curious about actually what works for you and what doesn't. Because when you can go out into the world socially and find what works for you and what doesn't, you will find yourself being able to balance the wellness versus like social life a lot better. But if you're not real with yourself about what you like and what you don't when you go out into the world, you're not really gonna know when to pull back. Like for me, I know that drinking in late nights literally don't feel good to me in any sort of way, and I don't get any benefit out of doing that. So I'm going to remove myself anytime where there's any social situation and it's kind of leading in that direction, and I pull myself back. It doesn't mean that I completely distance myself. It means that I have a little bit of social interaction and however that looks, and then I come back to myself, and now I'm living a balanced life. I know when I'm on my period, there's certain phases that I go through that I need to pull my energy towards myself, and there's some times where I can kind of exert more of that energy. I know that about myself. But the next thing that I think is the reason why we don't necessarily have this strong sense of being with ourselves is when we get triggered from real life things, our default position usually is to feel safe. And in order to feel safe, we have learned to leave ourselves, to go over here. Please like me, please love me, let me people please, let me act out of scarcity because I believe I can't get what I want, whatever it is, right? Versus coming inwards, which is exactly what we need when we are feeling triggered. That is the most important thing that we need when we're feeling triggered. And that leads me into talking about being your own safe space. What I listed when it came to the non-negotiables, you will see if you actually be consistent with that you feel safe within your own self. You really will. And I'm not saying that that is the most flawless formula for a perfect sense of safety, of course. Some of those things, let's say like the mindset work, part of that might be you having connection with other people to make you feel like your mindset is in a healthy place. Maybe that looks like also therapy, things like that, right? But you will start to feel a lot more safe in your life because you're also regulating your nervous system when you're doing those things. But also, the thing that I missed for years, beyond the non-negotiables and figuring out what works for me and all of these habits and this, that, because that's great. The thing I missed the most was realizing that all I really need in the moments that I am triggered is just to be with myself and stop running away from myself. I don't even need to fix anything. Okay, and what that looks like, and again, I'm going to link my episode from last week because you just need to go listen to that. It's about reparenting and being with yourself and being emotionally mature. You don't even need to try and change the way you feel about things. So let's say even when you're anxious, you're allowed to feel anxious. It makes sense why you're triggered. You're probably triggered from something that's like deep within your childhood. And your automatic thing is to try and fix that, and it's normal because you want to feel safe, but the way you're doing that is usually from other people. But even when you try and fix it from a place of tapping into your own habits, your daily habits, sometimes you don't even need to do that really. All you really need to do first is connect with yourself and be like, okay, what do I need right now? What do I need to tell myself? Who do I need to go to that's going to help me feel really safe, and not from a place of like people pleasing, like the anxious attachment behaviors that you know don't serve you, actually being resourceful, but really just being with yourself in those emotions or in this scarcity or whatever it is that you're feeling, and acknowledge it and get so curious with yourself and not trying to rid yourself of these actual deep, real things or feelings that you're feeling. So here's a few reminders of becoming your own safe space. When your attention is on them, when your attention is on any negative circumstance, you are no longer with yourself. And the only thing you need in those moments is to be with yourself. And being with yourself does not mean being in your room alone, isolated. Being with yourself is connecting with yourself and saying, what do I need in this moment? Do I need connection with people who are going to actually make me safe right now? Do I need to reach out to someone? Do I need to journal with myself? Do I have to self-reflect? Do I need to move my body? Do I need to take care of myself? Do I need to commit back to myself? What do I need? But you are never going to find safety in something that triggered you into feeling unsafe, which leads me into just another reminder of when you are not feeling safe, you're feeling very triggered, your nervous system is in fight or flight. And your nervous system is in fight or flight because you are not with yourself. Bringing it back to those non-negotiables, when you start to do that on a daily basis, you will find you are not so stressed and consumed with other people, other things, other anything, because you have spent your time regulating your nervous system to bring that energy down and back to yourself. Another thing, when you are triggered, the only thing you should be thinking of is to go deeper into yourself and your habits versus going deeper into someone else's actions or going deeper into the circumstance that is distressing you. And actually, this weekend, I would say was a great reflection or a great example of me deepening my relationship towards myself, because I got triggered within my romantic life, and I already knew how it could go. It could either go, I go deeper in this person, or I go deeper within myself. And at first, sometimes it feels really unstable. It doesn't necessarily feel good. And this is coming from somebody who works on her mindset daily, who has been like literally like right now in my life, I've been so good with my wellness, my self-care, my everything. I always have goals really. And I have my podcast, things like that. And I still, of course, got triggered. So when I did get triggered, the things that I did was I made sure that those non-negotiables were literally like extra solid. So I did daily mindset work, but like every single time that I had a shitty thought, I would go into my journal, or I would go into my notes app, or I'd speak out to myself out loud, or I would like put on a podcast or affirmations that I needed to remind myself what I needed to in that moment pertaining to the thing that I was triggered about, because I already knew what this was. It was just a thing that was coming up from like, an anxious attachment thing that it's not real. Those beliefs are not real. Those things are not real. And I know that if I keep spiraling in that, my actions are going to follow that. I already know how the game goes. I've been doing it for a while. So thankfully I knew and had all the resources that I needed, which I think definitely go back to last week's episode, because I talk about having an emotional self-care toolkit essentially. So I put those things in place, and I made sure that those were the first things that I was focusing on. My mindset, which was all day for about a solid day, and then kind of leading into the next day and to the next day, but really that first day. So I did exactly what I needed to do. And this was the moment to moment feeling. And this is what happens when you're triggered in your emotions. It's like this inner child that comes online and wants to keep coming online, keep coming online, and keep going on this emotional roller coaster. You have to keep bringing it down, and wants to go back up, and you got to keep bringing her down. And that's what you have to do. You have to commit to yourself when you're going through those times. And I watch people who get super, super triggered. They don't do that. They go to trying to have everyone else regulate themselves, and then they usually go into like, hey, I'm going to go out and like party or drink or something like that, which I totally understand, because a lot of people don't understand how to even be with themselves on that emotional roller coaster. But I'm just saying, like, that's usually what ends up happening. I have learned over the years that shit does not work. It makes everything worse anyways, and then you don't end up actually growing because you didn't really address the issue. Regardless, bring it back to me. I did my mindset work literally like every hour, every single time I needed to. And depending on the severity of the situation that you're in, yeah, maybe you need like a lot of mindset work that day. Maybe you don't need as much, whatever. You just need to tap into yourself and be like, what do I need? What do I need to hear? And you go and you resource that out. You don't sit around and you wait. You don't wait for someone else to make you feel good. You don't do that. So that's what I did. And then I made sure that I was like really consistent on my wellness, moving my body. And I find that like when I'm, even if it's not like anxious triggered relationship thing, it is like a mood thing, because sometimes I really struggle with my mood, luteal phase issues, things like that. I make sure to make wellness and moving as least resistant as possible. And the past weekend, I just booked hot yoga classes like every single day. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to leave it up to chance of me having motivation to go to the gym and like being super motivated to like do like a weightlifting, like gym session, this, that. Like I was so okay with changing my workout schedule, which again, coming back to like mastering the art of you in your life, you just need to know yourself. You need to know if you're really going to actually get up and go do that workout or not, depending on your mood that day or depending on X, Y, and Z. And I know myself. Another thing that I did was to just think about the goals that I had. And I mean, I'm actively always like working towards them right now when it comes to like my podcast, YouTube, things like that. So I didn't have to do too much of that because that didn't do it for me, which is fine. Like not every single non-negotiable thing is going to make you feel at ease. Again, you got to really just tap into what's going to make you feel the best, but whatever, like everything's going well with my work anyways. But another thing that I did was I really connected to like my social life because I wanted that. Like there was no need for me to even be in a spiral or in this like anxious like energy. I didn't need that. And what helped me though get out of that and actually go socially connect was to make sure that I was doing the mindset work first, because the day that I was like triggered, I did the mindset work like literally all day. I talked to my friend that knew my situation, and like she really helped me like stabilize myself and like think about it rationally, and I opened up to her. And that's another thing, like you really got to open up to people and you really got to go seek out that help. You got to do it for yourself. But once I was able to put myself at ease, I was actually able to think clearly and be like, you know what? I have a life to live. I'm going out and I'm going to live my damn life. And this was okay. So when I was triggered was the day after I went to the first thing that I did this weekend. What I did this weekend was on Friday, I went to Party Next Door in Drake, and it was so fun. And I went with my friend Emily. I met her on this brand trip that I went on, and it was so amazing. Like I'm literally in love with her. I love it. We just had such a good time. We're like two Scorpios, peas in a freaking pod. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is I made plans that were specific to what I knew I was going to feel good doing. There was a few other things that I could have done this weekend that I just knew wouldn't lead me to feeling regulated in my nervous system, whether it was just like putting myself around certain people or even consuming things like alcohol, which I didn't drink because I just knew that was not going to be a thing. Coming back to mastering your own life, but also like I'll bring it to another thing on the Saturday when I was actually triggered and I was talking to one of my friends. My friend was like, oh, come to this barbecue. It was like a last minute thing. It had nothing to do with anyone that was there, and my best friend was there. But I just knew myself, and I knew if I didn't spend the time that I needed to do on like my mindset and like work on myself and like regulate myself this way, I would have been not well if I went to this thing, because I'd be first surrounded by people that I just like didn't really know. And I just know myself, and I need to hear like certain affirmations. I need to like journal a million times. Like I just need to do that kind of stuff in order to keep me sane. And I will say though, like I had to really like be real with myself. And I said, if I'm not going to go and have human connection, because human connection is great. You really need to know when you need it and when you don't. But I just knew this specific situation wasn't going to be it for me. But I said, if I'm going to stay home, I'm going to commit to myself and I'm going to do this thing. And I'm not going to sit here and be a lonely little mess and cry about my life and go into this spiral because I don't deserve it and I don't want it. And I know this game and it's not happening, and I can get out of this and I can move past this and I can move through this and I can be with myself, and I'm going to do that. And when I made that decision, like I said, I did all my mindset work. I turned around my entire day. What did I end up doing? I don't really know, but the highlight of my day really was I think I had a nap, and then I woke up. I was just listening to like calming music all day. I was listening to affirmations. I was not listening or watching anything that was going to like trigger me. I wasn't responding also to like the actual thing that was happening in my life when it came to like my relationship. Irrelevant, like literally decompartmentalize, put that over there. It's actually so irrelevant. Not when I'm in this state. Thank you. And I went out and I brought like a little blanket and I decided to go journal outside. It was like beautiful weather. And I just had this like, just this beautiful nervous system regulation come to Jesus moment. And I journaled, and I actually came up with this idea of having the podcast, which is something that I usually do, and I don't even intend to do it, but that's usually what happens. And I felt so good to the point where I got home and I said, you know what? I'm saying yes to go to Veld Music Festival because I know I'm going to be good. Because this is the thing, me and my friend were thinking about going, this, that, and then we didn't make any plans and we just didn't even get any tickets. And I was thinking like, I don't want to put myself in places where I might be triggered with anything. You know, sometimes when you go out, you see people, you hear music, you do things, and it triggers you. I'm very, very like, can't do that. I'm not putting myself in that situation. So it was kind of like, didn't know if I wanted to even do that because I didn't know where I would be mentally. But from that night, I felt so freaking good that I ended up booking a hot yoga class on Sunday morning. And I like had my whole day. I felt so good from the day before to the point where I was like literally like, I didn't react to anything. It was so behind me. I felt so good. I felt so solid. So much more of my power came back to myself. And then me and my friend, honestly, she's a plug. She ended up getting VIP wristbands for free. For free to go to Veld. And we went and we had an amazing time. And I did not drink. I did have a little tiny bit of broccoli, which honestly, like, I'm kind of like over even doing that. Like sometimes when I go out, because sometimes when I go out to concerts, depending on what I do, honestly, I'll have a little some. But like I didn't even really need it. But regardless, it was amazing time, and I felt so good, and I was so happy that I was like getting the most out of summer because it's August right now, and I'm like, damn, this is where I should be right now. I shouldn't be sad about anyone. I shouldn't be crying about anything. Ain't nobody got time to do that, okay? But the truth is, I'm a human being, and I go through this shit. And I got home. I ended up getting home so freaking late, though, because it's Veld Music Festival. Like, you get out late, and you get home, whatever. But I had my boundaries, this, that, and then I woke up, and I was fine. So I turned around my day based off of going deeper within myself and knowing what I needed versus leaving myself. And I feel like sometimes we just search for like this thing that's going to make us feel good, but it's like, you are going to make yourself feel good. I promise you, it's you. It's nobody else. It's not especially the person that made you feel unsafe. I promise you that. I promise you that. I promise you that. And it is an art, and it is a commitment, and it is a journey. Please understand that. But you have to learn how to do that, and you need to show up as much as you can every single day. And not every single day is going to be perfect, but you need to be with yourself even on those imperfect days. Let yourself cry. Let yourself be messy. Remind yourself that you didn't ruin anything. If you didn't do things perfectly, or you didn't do your non-negotiables perfectly, you keep going, and you keep trying, and you keep committing to yourself because you deserve it. And that is what we are here to do. And when you do that, you find it gets reflected in your life. I promise you that. It's been reflected in my relationships, even though sometimes I have a little bit of tiff, that, this, that, and the third. It gets reflected in my relationships. And on top of that, I get deeper into what exactly I want in my relationships, but also in my life, right? My goals, my wellness. I figure out what works for me, what doesn't. Social situations, this works for me, this doesn't. But I'm never going to know that unless I connect to myself. I'm never going to know if, how many drinks that I need or not, or like who I want to go out with on what days and what type of environments that I want to go out in if I don't connect to myself, I don't have this relationship, right? And I just want to end on this quote from Pinterest. It says, be in your life just for 2 seconds. Stop rushing and thinking about what's next on the agenda and the to-do list, and be where you are. And I can really add in, stop obsessing or focusing on that thing that's really distressing you, okay? To continue, it says, open your eyes to the world around you. The magic is right there in front of you, waiting for you to notice it. Don't blink or you'll miss it. Open your eyes, be where your feet are, be present in the conversation, live in each moment, notice it all. Don't miss what's folding right in front of you because you're too busy trying to get to what comes next. And we can add in, you're too busy focusing on the thing that is distressing you, the negative beliefs, the comparison, the shitty thoughts. It's all bullshit. It's all trying to keep you safe. It's all old programming that you have been living off of, that you were trained on, that you no longer need, that does not serve you. I promise you, does not serve you. But you have to be the one to remind yourself of that, okay? And it goes on to say, there's so much goodness moving all around you every day, in people, in things, in those you love. It all changes so quickly. So don't miss it. Be awake to it all. And that brings me to this weekend of deciding to go to Veld and, on a whim, saying yes to going to a concert last minute with my friend. In those moments when I was making those decisions, that's what I came to, that type of quote. Like in my head, I was thinking like, as much as you're triggered and anxious and you're sad or you're like whatever it is, like that can all be fine. And you don't even have to erase all of that right now. You can be with yourself and you can just let that be. But there's also so much beauty right now, and you can go and do it. Nobody is stopping you from focusing on the great. Nobody is stopping you from deciding to detach from this shitty circumstance that's pissing you off right now, or making you anxiously attached, and go and do the thing that you really wanted to do anyways. Let that person be. Let that person go live. Let that person that's distracting you or making you feel unsafe, or let that thing that's making you feel unsafe right now, let it be what it is, okay? Learn how to be with that thing and be with yourself and be in the present moment. And it's a art, okay? That is what I'm going to say. It's an art, but it is a beautiful thing to master, and it's something that you need to master, and you're going to do it every single day until you die, okay? So anyways, that's it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know in the comment section on YouTube if you liked it and what you want to hear next. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you're listening to the episode on Spotify or Apple, make sure that you're following, and you can leave a preferably 5-star review if you liked it. That really helps the podcast be pushed out to more people. You can also follow the podcast Instagram, the Globe Seekers Podcast. You can also follow me on my regular Instagram if you want to see what I'm getting up to, all the fun summer things that I'm going to be doing. And that'll be it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.